The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the program's participants and do not necessarily reflect those of station staff, management, and advertisers.
Time now for the most listened to talk show in Vegas.
You think we're fighting, and I think we're finally talking.
Talking with those on the right, the left, and everywhere in between.
Quiet. Shut up and let me answer, okay?
Answer.
Pot him down, please, because this is another MAGA who doesn't understand how to have a conversation with somebody.
It's Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro.
I'm kind of a big deal.
This show will make you laugh, make you cry, and it might raise Brian's blood pressure.
You know what, dude? You know what, dude? People like you, all you do is make excuses for the orange turd, and I've had it.
All the smash and grabs and everything. Yeah, tell me, what race is doing that, first of all?
Okay, so you want to be a racist now. Okay.
Race is doing it. Seen it on the news?
I don't watch Klan TV like you do, sir.
Buckle up, because it's Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro.
You're different. I like you.
Now, here's Brian.
All right, what's going on, everybody? A very happy Wednesday. Thank you all for joining us. And a very busy day we have lined up for you today. You might be listening on the Occupy Democrats Network. You might be watching and tuning in on the Washington Press Network. We're also, of course, on my personal YouTube page, which is at PTL Radio Show, TikTok, X, Twitch, you name it, we're on it. And, of course, my website, pushingthelimits.live. Big show lined up for you today. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, somebody that I've always wanted to interview, actually, for a long time, been watching him on TV for years, Don Lemon, formerly of CNN. He'll be joining us on the show coming up at the bottom of the hour. He's got a new memoir out, and, boy, a lot of questions to get to with him. You know, he took some flack last week because he posted a Melania Trump video. Melania saying how, I guess, upset she was that her husband was shot at, and Don Lemon kind of rolled his eyes, and then he took down that tweet. I'm going to ask him about that and the Elon Musk interview. So much to get to. So Don Lemon joining us at the bottom of the hour. Coming up here in just a few minutes, we're going to be joined by the lead prosecutor and the lead attorney in the case, a new case that was filed yesterday, criminal charges against Donald Trump and J.D. Vance in regards to the two allegedly, the pair causing harm by spreading baseless smears about the Haitian immigrants that we've heard in Springfield, Ohio, eating the cats and dogs, stealing your pets. Now, they've continuously amplified this false online conspiracy theory about these immigrants, and it's elevated to bomb threats, closures, bomb threats to schools, threats to supermarkets and local hospitals. It's really been a mess, and the FBI has been investigating these threats and intimidation of these Haitian immigrants in Springfield. I also add legal, many of whom are living and working there legally. So the head of the Haitian Bridge Alliance brought these charges on behalf of the organization yesterday in Clark County Municipal Court under an Ohio statute that allows private citizens to file criminal charges. And it's interesting because I was having a conversation earlier today with somebody about this. And the way I see it is as follows, and we're going to get kind of the legal explanation of this, but the way I see it is as follows. If you make false claims about a group of people, or if you make claims really about anybody that can harm them, cause them harm in any way, shape, or form, whether it be bodily harm or emotional harm, and you say things that are proven to be not true, in this case, the Haitian immigrants stealing your pets and eating them, and it causes harm, which clearly it has in Springfield, Ohio. We'll get more clarification on this from this attorney, but clearly it has. Then I think you have a case. Now, whether that's criminal or not, I don't know. But here is what Donald Trump said yesterday in regards to Springfield, Ohio. Have a listen to this.
But Kamala should have closed the border years ago, and we wouldn't have hostile takeovers of Springfield, Ohio, Aurora, Colorado, where they're actually going in with massive machine gun type equipment. They're going in with guns that are beyond even military scope, and they're taking over apartment buildings. They're taking over real estate. They're in the real estate development business. Congratulations. These are, in that case, people from Venezuela, young street gang members that were sent here by the Venezuelan government.
So obviously that's also a lie, and that's also not true. But for whatever reason, other than maybe fear mongering or trying to get votes, for whatever reason, they're doubling down and they're continuing. And I think it's hurting Trump. And it's, listen, it's not going to hurt him as far as his base of supporters. It's not going to hurt Trump with the bigots that were chanting the other day, send them back, send them back. But it's certainly not going to get Donald Trump any new support. And I would think some of the people that have considered voting for Donald Trump might not vote for him because of this. So listen, this is a serious circumstance. We saw what happened on January 6th, and we see what could happen when people say things that are not true and they spread misinformation that can cause violence. It's very serious. So we're going to have to wait and see how this thing plays out. But I can tell you right now, this story is not going away. And while we do have something called freedom of speech in this country, you can't yell fire at a crowded theater, and you can't spread misinformation and lies like what is taking place in Springfield, Ohio today. It's awful. It's wrong. And it cannot be tolerated. So I am glad that this law firm out of Ohio is taking steps to at least attempt to try to hold Donald Trump and J.D. Vance accountable for the things that they have said, which are proven to be untrue. They are nothing more than conspiracy theories. So we'll have to wait and see how this thing plays out. We will have to wait and see what happens. But joining us on the line right now, I should say joining us through video, we appreciate him taking the time to join us, is attorney Sabad Chandra from the Chandra law firm. And he is the lead prosecutor that is taking this case and has filed criminal charges against Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. Attorney Chandra, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you. And just to be clear, I'm not a prosecutor, but I am serving as counsel for the Haitian Bridge Alliance and the Affiant.
Thank you for correcting me on that, counsel. I appreciate that. So let's start from square one. Did you see this coming? And can you explain to us the criminal charges that you guys have filed?
Well, although J.D. Vance and Donald Trump seem to do a lot of wackadoodle things, and just when you think they can't get any crazier or more bananas, they do something even more bananas. So I can't say that I saw this particular thing coming. We've seen them engage, especially Trump engage, in a pattern of xenophobia and hate mongering, trying to divide Americans against each other and to make us hate all kinds of immigrants, including legal ones like the ones who are there from Haiti in Springfield. And ultimately, what my clients, the Haitian Bridge Alliance, determined when all this criming was happening in open sight over the course of September was that it looks like the prosecutor isn't going to do anything about this, despite the impact not just on the Haitian population in Springfield, but the entire Springfield community and Springfield government, the schools, the colleges, the evacuations, the closures, parents not being able to send their kids to school, regardless of race. The prosecutor wasn't doing anything about it. And so in Ohio, there is a statute that allows a private citizen to file a criminal complaint charging criminal offenses. That then goes either to a prosecutor or a judge. You can opt. In this case, we've chosen to ask a judge to make a call because the prosecutor hasn't done anything, to affirm that, yes, there's probable cause to support the charges, and then to issue arrest warrants for Trump and Vance.
What do you think are the chances that a judge will side in your favor on this?
Look, I certainly don't want to predict what a judge would do or won't do. I would like to believe that a judge will stand for the rule of law here and will hold Trump and Vance accountable, even though it may be difficult, even though it may be risky and put that judge at risk. I would hope that a judge would understand the concept that we're all held to the same legal standard.
Right. So, Mr. Chandra, it's amazing to me where you have, and I think you'll agree with me, the mayor, who happens to be a Republican, who said these conspiracy theories about Haitian immigrants stealing your pets and eating your pets is not true. The Republican governor, the city manager, virtually everybody of prominence, whether they're Republican or not, has said this is not true. Yet, even on a stage yesterday, Donald Trump continues with the lies. Are you amazed that at this point, they are still not backing down and not saying, geez, we were wrong?
Well, look, we've seen that Donald Trump himself is a serial criminal offender, right? We've seen that. And now, unfortunately, we in Ohio are learning a lot of terrible things about our United States senator. And I think what is amazing here is that even after the governor and the mayor warned them that what they're doing is wrong, that what they're saying is false, that they're persisting and they're doing so relentlessly. But as a former federal prosecutor, what I can tell you, and as a former Cleveland law director and prosecuting attorney, that's evidence of criminal intent. You know, if they had just made these outrageous, ridiculous statements at the front end and Trump had said whatever stupid thing he said in the debate and that was the end of it, that would be one thing. But Vance was warned in advance before he made some of these statements by the city staff. His staff called City Hall to verify whether these things were true, and they were told they were not true. And so that's criminal intent. As a former prosecutor, I'm telling you, that's evidence of criminal intent. If you're prosecuting a case, you love that kind of evidence.
Well, you're so right. Yeah,
right.
You're so right. I want to emphasize what you just said, because I think this is a very important part of your case, where that the staff members and campaign staff in J.D. Vance's crew were told the night before, correct me if I'm wrong, Donald Trump was on the debate stage and reemphasized these conspiracy theories and lies. They were told that this was not true. Yet Donald Trump on a debate stage the next day tells 67 million Americans that they're eating your pets and your dogs, right? I mean, this is a huge part of your case when you do talk about criminal intent.
That's right. And Vance himself then has persisted, and he's insisted on referring to the Haitian immigrants and migrants as illegal when they're clearly here on legally protected status. I mean, this is evidence of an intent to harm not only the Haitian population, but when you see the result, which is 33 bomb threats, schools being closed, colleges being closed and evacuated, City Hall being closed, the mayor and his family receiving threats. When you see the result, and you know that that result is occurring because of the persistence and relentlessness of Trump and Vance's conduct, that's where the criminal culpability comes in. Because if they just said it once or twice and then let it go, I don't think we'd be looking at criminal culpability here.
Agree. So, Mr. Chandra, the next question is, why did the prosecutor not do anything, as you say? Is it political? Was he afraid of retribution? Why would the prosecutor not take action?
So I can't speak for the prosecutor. I don't know the prosecutor. I've not spoken with the prosecutor. What was clear to my clients was the prosecutor was clearly not acting, even though these facts are open and notorious for the world to see. What I can say in general is that, and I think, the New York case proved it, Donald Trump is a serial offender of criminal law and civil law. He's just a serial offender. He's been adjudicated a rapist. He's been convicted of 34 felonies. And so it could very well be, this is pure speculation on my part, that local authorities are, like everybody else, sort of paralyzed by his power, his following, the cult that amens every lunatic, crazy thing that he says, and that they just felt like they couldn't do anything. But they're wrong. They're wrong. And this is probably the most important point that I can make on your program today, so I want to make sure I make it. And your listeners, I ask them to think about this. Regardless of where we are on the political spectrum, whether you support Trump or don't, whether you voted for him before or not, I don't care. Okay. I think we should all be able to agree on one thing. If you or I or any of your listeners had done what Vance and Trump had done, where you relentlessly and persistently lie, repeatedly disseminating false information, and it results in 33 bomb threats and school, college, and city hall closures and evacuations and parents not being able to send their kids to school and the mayor and his family being threatened, you can be assured that we would have been arrested by now. You can be certain of it. For disrupting public service, one of the charges here, for making false alarms, for aggravated menacing, for complicity, for telecommunications harassment, we would have been arrested by now. And the only question I ask your listeners is this: shouldn't Donald Trump and J.D. Vance be held to the same standard as the rest of us? Do we believe in the rule of law in America or not? That's the question before the court now.
Completely agree with you. I think that's very well said. I agree. We would be arrested. So let's take the possible criminal liability, for lack of a better term, aside for a moment. Let's just talk civilly. Can you explain what some of your clients have gone through because of these lies that have been spread? I know you'd mentioned there have been 33 bomb threats. Boy, I can't imagine how shook up I would be as a kid if I'm in school and all of a sudden I find out there's a bomb threat. My understanding is threats have happened at supermarkets, at a local pregnancy center, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Can you go through step by step, just from the civil aspect of this, what some of your clients have had to suffer, particularly these Haitian immigrants have had to suffer through in Springfield, Ohio?
Yeah, I just became aware today of criminal charges pending against an individual who threatened a Haitian with a gun in their own garage. Members of the Haitian community in Springfield have been made to be very uncomfortable at work with harassment and statements that are being made to them. People are feeling threatened in their homes, in their communities. But I want to emphasize something here. The reason we've pursued this criminal charge dimension is that it isn't just about the Haitian community at this point. It's about the entire community. And it's about the impact on the governmental institutions, the private colleges, the mayor, his family. It's about the impact on everyone and not just the Haitian community. Yes, people have suffered, but it's not just the Haitian community that has suffered because of this criminal misconduct.
Listen, Mr. Chandra, we have a national show here, and I can tell you what you're saying is true. How do I know that? I've received calls from people who live in Springfield, Ohio. Multiple times, people have called into this show saying what these statements have done and what these people have had to go through because of it. So you're absolutely right. And it's important to note, it's not just the Haitian immigrants who are legal, by the way, in that city. It's also everybody else. What do you make of the fact that, and correct me if I'm wrong, J.D. Vance pretty much admitted that he was lying on CNN. He's doing this interview with Caitlin Collins. Correct me if I'm wrong. And, you know,
it was with Dana Bash. And he said, and he said that, hey, if I have to create stories to make the media pay attention, then that's what I'm going to do. And that's almost verbatim what he said. I mean, just think about this. How breathtaking and brazen is this? But again, first of all, that helps establish criminal intent. You're willfully and intentionally disseminating falsehoods that you know are having this terrible impact. But beyond that, it shows the sort of evil mental state, the malicious mental state, that you truly don't care about the human impact. And again, if it was anybody else that had done this, they would have been arrested by now. They would have been criminally charged. Vance somehow thinks that because he's a United States senator, he can do that. Besides doing a terrible disservice to people like me, his constituents. I live in Ohio. He's doing a disservice to all humanity. He's really putting a target on the backs of members of the Haitian community, and he's literally putting a target on the backs of the government officials. It's just so reprehensible that it merits him being processed through the criminal justice system and having to answer for his conduct.
So, Mr. Chandra, you know, yesterday I played on my show a rally where Donald Trump, I believe it was on Monday, if I'm not mistaken, in regards to the Haitian immigrants there, he uses the term, get them the hell out. And then members, I call it a cult, members of the cult at his rally were chanting, get them, send them back, send them back. I'm shaking my head and I say to myself, is this the country that we want to live in? Right. I mean, when you see that on television and you hear from the former president's mouth, he's saying, get them the hell out. What goes through your mind?
Well, there's just an evil to it. You know, I mean, look, we can have respectful disagreements in this country about immigration policy and how many people do we want to let in and who should they be and what should be the categories and what should we do when people are violating the law. We can have that respectful disagreement. But the Haitian immigrants in Springfield are legal immigrants. They are legal. They are here under temporary protection status because of the prospect of political oppression back home. This great nation did that for the Cubans. We did it for the Vietnamese. We are doing it for the Haitian community because of the political violence that they suffered there. And imagine them, they're coming to the land of freedom and opportunity, and they're to be acculturated into our great melting pot. And this is the way we're going to treat them and talk about them.
Yeah.
It's just barbaric. It's abhorrent. And fine, it's abhorrent, it's barbaric. That's enough. That's a policy difference. And I, in my own personal opinion, not speaking for my clients, people like that should never be in charge of the country.
Yeah.
But where the rule of law is concerned, if you then try to instigate people to act on that and you've successfully done that, you need to be held accountable.
Agree. I guess this would be my final question for you. If you had, being an attorney, if you had J.D. Vance and or Donald Trump on the witness stand, what would you start by asking them about this case? I know that, there's probably a lot of things you'd want to ask them, but what would be on the tops of your list on what you would question them on?
So if you look at the chronology that's set forth in the affidavit, it can be found on our website, chandralaw.com. People can click on the blog. If you read the affidavit, it sets forth the chronology of events and their statements that are captured on video and that are captured in social media posts. And what I would do is, in a laser-like way, and because you get to lead on cross-examination, I would ask them, I would demand for them to confirm all of those statements. And when a fool like Trump denies it, which he often does to things that are just on video, I'd play back the video for him and say, is this you or not? Or are you going to claim this is a deep fake, right? And you get them to confirm the timeline. And then you go back and you confirm that at the moment you said X, or the moment you said Y, or the moment you said, if I have to create stories, you already knew, your staff had already been alerted, J.D. Vance, that this was false, right? You just do that because I think in my experience as a trial lawyer, most reasonable juries, regardless of political persuasion, when they're given that solemn charge for the judge that they have to review the case dispassionately on the facts and the law, they're going to do the right thing. And when they hear this, and when they hear these guys admit to everything they're going to have to admit to, I think there will be a conviction in this case.
Well, I'll tell you what, in closing, Mr. Chandra, I think you have a great case. I really do. I'm glad that you guys took this case. I'm glad that, these people are taking it very seriously. I do believe they broke the law. On the other side of things, obviously, you have a lot of obstacles and going after two very powerful people. But you're right. They're not above the law. And that's where you come in. So if there's anything we can do to help you down the road, I'd love to have you come back on if there's more developments here. But I really do appreciate your time, Mr. Chandra, and I really genuinely wish you the best of luck, and I hope you get them for what they did. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
We appreciate your attention to this. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's Subodh Chandra from the Chandra Law Firm. They are the group that is taking this case head on. They are filing criminal charges. They've already filed criminal charges against Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. There's absolutely at least civil liability. I'm not a legal scholar. But you heard what he just said. There was a criminal complaint of a gun being pointed at a Haitian immigrant, 33 bomb threats to supermarkets and pregnancy centers, threats to all sorts of different organizations within that community. And he made a very good point. It's not just the Haitian immigrants that happen to be legal that are going through this. It's also everyday people in that community that have been living there. I have those people call into this show. They call in every week. So I'm glad they're taking this case. You can't just accuse somebody, in this case, a group of people, of committing a heinous crime, in this case, which they didn't do, stealing your pets and then eating them. It's not true. It's a lie. And spreading it on a huge platform, which could incite violence. In this case, if they didn't spread those conspiracy theories that have been debunked, we wouldn't have had all these bomb threats. We probably wouldn't have had somebody with a gun pointing it at a Haitian immigrant. We wouldn't have had these schools on lockdown. We wouldn't have had these threats, hundreds of threats. And according, again, to the city manager, to the mayor, Republican, to the governor, Republican, these are not true. These have been debunked. So we appreciate Attorney Chandra joining us, and I do wish him the best of luck. All right, we're going to take a quick break to talk about this issue and many other issues as somebody that I've been wanting to speak with and interview for a very long time. Of course, I'm talking about Don Lemon, formerly of CNN. He's got a new memoir out. Boy, is there a lot to get to with him. A lot to talk about with Don Lemon. He's going to be joining us next. We'll take a quick break. and we'll be back right after this. And before we take a break, I want to remind you all, check out my new website, pushingthelimits.live. I get emails and messages from people every day, constantly saying, how do I get more involved in the show? How can I support the show? Well, check out the website, pushingthelimits.live. We sell merchandise up there, shirts, hats, beanies, you name it. We're selling it. And if you don't want to buy merchandise, that's totally okay. On the front page of pushingthelimits.live, there's a donate button. Doesn't matter what it is, $5, $10, $20, whatever you can afford. We greatly appreciate it because this is an independently run show, and we rely on the great people like you guys listening in to help support what we do. Again, check out the website, pushingthelimits.live. Don Lemon will be joining us next when we come back from break. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. We just had Sabo Chandra from the Chandra Law Firm. They're the group of attorneys that are already filed criminal charges against Donald Trump and J.D. Vance for what has taken place in Springfield, Ohio. We'll return to be talking about that in a little bit. But, it is interesting because I talked to so many different people on this show, so many prominent people. And, I've been watching Don Lemon for years on TV. And so I decided to hit him up. I know he's got this new memoir coming out. And I said, hey, Don, I'd love to get you on the show. And he responded back to me immediately. And he said, I'm actually a fan of your show. And I would hit you up and send you a DM. And so it certainly is a pleasure to be joining us on the show right now. Don Lemon, his new memoir, I Once Was Lost, My Search for God in America. Don, it is a pleasure to have you on the show, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's a pleasure to be on the show. I wish that I could get away with what you do, but I would be kicked out of not even polite circles, but impolite circles. But maybe I'll adopt that. Maybe I should. Maybe I'm just being too careful and too nice sometimes. But I really do. I think what you do is fantastic.
I really appreciate you saying that, Don. I used to be a lot nicer, I'll be honest with you, but ever since these MAGA Republicans started to call into this show, and you should see the emails I get every day, I said, you know what? I'm going to give it right back to them. Yeah. Maybe that's against what Michelle Obama said when she said, when they go low, we go high. But I don't know. That's another story for another show. I certainly want to talk to you about your new memoir that's out. I believe it just came out September 10th. I want to ask you this. I think our politics are very similar in a lot of ways. You consider yourself an independent, as do I. We both lean to the left on social issues, and we are both anti-MAGA. Is it as frustrating for you as it is for me when people call us far lefties and liberals and that sort of stuff? Because you get that a lot.
Yes. And so just to pick up on what I said before, so I cannot be the angry black man. So I can't say some of the things that you say, because even without that, people, respond to me. They call me the N-word. They call me race baiter. They call me, can I say whatever I want to say, whatever word I want to say on here? Yes.
Well, we're on the radio. So
okay. So they call me, can I say fag? I can say that.
Yes.
So they call me fag and all kinds of things. So the criticism of me is often based in racism and homophobia. And so before Donald Trump came along, everyone thought that, well, by the way, I am an independent, a registered independent. I don't belong to any political party. So you're right about that. But people would write, oh my gosh, CNN has a black conservative on in prime time, right? And then Donald Trump came about and the MAGA folks came about. And when I started having to check him on his lies, on his bigotry, on all of those things, then he started to what? To start to say call me out, right? Started to say mean things about me, derogative things, because I was telling the truth about him and he didn't like it. So he started calling me the dumbest man on television and the liberal left, and then his folks caught on and they started doing those things, none of which is true. I'm actually not a liberal. Yes, socially, do I have some leanings that are liberal? Yes. And just in general, and some that are conservative, I think, as most Americans do. But what I believe in, I don't believe in partisanship, I believe in the truth. So when he says that I am all of these things, it's because he's not telling the truth. And I'm telling the truth about him or about MAGA and how they rationalize every single thing. It is, look, it's a cult, Brian. It is a cult. It's cult-like behavior, or cultish.
Listen, some of my videos went viral when I went to some Trump rallies, and I called it a Klan cult. And the reason why I said that is because these, first of all, predominantly white, predominantly middle-aged white people. I've seen the Confederate flag at these rallies, and I've seen the bigotry. I feel like, Don, in 2024, I'm talking specifically about MAGA Republicans. You and I both have, Trump supporter friends of ours. You've talked about that, and I have. I'm talking about the far right. They seem to hate people like you. They don't like people like me either, because of the color of your skin or maybe your sexuality. And I feel like this is the base of the Donald Trump MAGA Republican Party today. How do you feel about that, and do you agree?
Well, look, I feel like we always have to caveat and say, not everyone, right? Because then they'll say we're calling us. So I will say this, if it doesn't apply to you, it doesn't apply to you, right? Because it's like they think there are Marxist, leftists, or whatever on the left or whatever. And people, if you're not one of those, you go, okay, fine. Then you're not talking. But they seem to take offense because it's something inside. Do I think that the base of the party is racist? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I agree.
Because if they weren't, then you wouldn't see and hear the stuff that they talk about. You wouldn't hear them over-indexing on DEI and diversity, equity, and inclusion, and all of these things. They sort of over-index on these issues that, quite frankly, instead of being so judgmental about them, maybe they should just be more curious about them to understand, why African Americans feel the way that they have, and understanding, as I'm sure you do, that African Americans have a unique history with America that, quite frankly, European Americans, I say, don't. And because white is not a race, right? You have German Americans, you have Irish Americans, you have British Americans who come from the UK. You have all of these kinds of Americans.
Right.
White is not a race. And that's what we need to that's what people need to realize in this country, is that just because you're white, that's not a race.
I think calling somebody a DEI hire, they've even done that with Kamala Harris. You might as well just call her the N-word. I say that to people who use the term DEI hire. I think it's the Republican 2024 replacement to the N-word.
Well, it used to be affirmative action hire, and people used to call me that because when I first came to CNN, I was I think it was my 40s. And people thought I was in my my 40s, and they would go, "Who is this affirmative action hire? Look at him. He's 12 years old." And I was like, "No, I'm 40 years old, and I've worked in about 8 news markets before I even got here."
Yeah, you've had an unbelievable career. You don't just get hired at CNN like that.
Right.
Just the
I'd already been at NBC Network News.
Right. You're a national anchor. And it's so infuriating when people make statements like that, and I even go back to, I try to listen to people like you, people who look like you. I don't know what it's like to be black. I don't know what it's like to be pulled over because of the color of my skin. I don't know what it's like to be followed, in an electronics store because people might think I'm shoplifting because of the color of my skin. So what do? I listen to people like you that don't have the same pathway that I do. And I think that's important. I don't think enough people do that. I want to go back to your interview with Vivek Ramaswamy. It was controversial, right? And he's trying to tell you on CNN how to think as a black man. I thought you were in the right completely. I've had Vivek on this show. I think he's extremely insulting at times and condescending. Do you still go back to that interview? Because in a way, that's kind of what we're talking about now.
Do I go back to that interview? No, I try not to dwell on the past, but I also try not to dwell on ignorance. Did I know that I was right? Of course I did. Did that mean that the people around me knew that it was right? People who were trying to make spaces for people like that. And yeah, I knew it was right. I knew I was right. So I don't really dwell on it. But I do find it embarrassing for him to see his behavior throughout this campaign.
Yeah. It is embarrassing.
And culture. But you're not like a real American. And then he just keeps going back for more, him and other folks in that party, and I don't understand why. He is a man of color. He's not a black American, right? He is a man of color. And just his behavior is shocking to me. And he has done so well that he does not need to be, I feel, in the position where he puts himself because it's the shortest line to the front, if you know what I'm saying.
Ego, and he's an attention getter. I think that's those two combined. I want to talk to you, of course, about Elon Musk. I thought you did such a great job, Don, in that interview and holding him accountable in a respectful way. It just seemed like he didn't want to be held accountable for anything. And you knew that, listen, you knew probably going into that interview, listen, you were going to challenge him. This is a man who doesn't want to be challenged. And what do you take from that interview now? I mean, I saw your comments on The View about it, and like I said, I thought you did a great job. I think you're good at a lot of things, but I think you're really good at holding people accountable while you're interviewing them in real time, and he just couldn't handle it.
Well, let me say that I am in active litigation with Elon and X, so there's not much I can say. Some things I cannot say, I should say. But let's just say anyone who is in power and has that much power, even beyond Elon Musk, most people don't really like to be challenged.
Right.
And it is, I find in this day and time that people have a very difficult time answering questions about what they say and what comes out of their mouths. And that's it, or making excuses or rationalizing the behavior of a certain former president. And so I think it's just the time that we're in. But certainly as a journalist, I don't pull punches. And if you care anything about American democracy, then you should respect the fact that a journalist, and I'm meaning the people who are listening, all of us, that a journalist has a job to ask questions without fear or favor.
So many great poignant moments in that interview, including when he used his sources as just random people that make statements on X. If you remember that, it just.
But that happens to you. I mean, I listen to people and they go, well, just because, and I heard it somewhere. I mean, look at the dogs are eating the cats. Well, that's what people I'm hearing people are saying around me. By the way, one of the women who started that apologized because she actually found her cat.
Correct. In the
right?
basement.
She had blamed a neighbor.
Right.
And she found her cat, but nobody's picking up on that, J.D. Vance.
Right. Exactly. It's despicable and it's disgusting. If you're just joining us, Don Lemon, I've been watching him on television for years. Great journalist. He's got a new memoir, which we're going to talk about. I Once Was Lost, My Search for God in America. All right, let's talk a little bit about Melania Trump. So I have been on the offensive. I'm not a Melania Trump fan. I don't think she's a very good person, and I speak my mind on this show. You had put out a video last week, and it was in regards to her memoir, I believe, her audiobook, where she's talking about what she had to go through when her husband was shot at. And you kind of like rolled your eyes a little bit. I don't think you did anything wrong. I totally understand where you were coming from. This is a woman who makes no appearances with Donald
Trump. Let me say this. Can I say this?
Sure.
Because I actually didn't. And I will tell you, this is the first time that I've spoken about this. I actually did not put that video out. I am running a business now, right? Before I worked for a company. Now I'm running a business. I hire people to help me with my social media. They will ask me, we need a reaction shot from you, looking intently, we need you laughing, and then we need you doing a questioning one, right? And so that video they put out without my knowledge, and I didn't even see it. And when someone said, hey, this video is out there, when I got wind of it, I said, take it down immediately. It looks callous. Because whether I agree with the former First Lady or not, she does have certain opinions about what happened to her husband, and she's welcome to those, and I don't want to look like I'm making fun of anyone. I don't feel like I owed the people who are criticizing me any explanation, because nothing I say is going to change their minds. It's almost like the sky is falling. They only have negative things to say about me, so I don't feel a need to explain to them. What I did was I took it down as soon as I saw it, and I told them, you cannot do this again. And they said, we understand this is a learning experience for us. But I don't want to throw my team under the bus. The buck stops with me. So I did not put that video out there. I did not know what it was. And as soon as I saw it, I took it down.
Thank you for clarifying that. I was unaware of that, and I'm sure my listeners were as well.
It's just not who I am. I'm not that kind of person.
Sure, I understand that completely. And we can both criticize Melania Trump for certain things. But yeah, when it comes to an assassination attempt, there's certainly, we don't want to mock people for that. And I'm with you on that. I don't want to bombard you with CNN questions, because I'm sure you're tired of
getting ask me whatever you want.
Time and time again. I feel like you were one of the few people on CNN, and I liked watching Chris Cuomo as well. You challenge people.
I used to challenge him.
Right. I remember when you guys would have your talk at the end of your show for a few minutes. I really enjoyed that. Yeah. Let me start with Chris Cuomo. And I know you don't speak for him, but he's been defending Donald Trump a lot lately, right? He's been calling him, I'm not going to say a martyr, but after these assassination attempts, he's been giving Donald Trump a ton of credit as of recently. I don't know if you guys still talk on a regular basis. What do you make of that? You guys have been close friends for a while.
You'll have to ask him. I don't know what's in his head. I have not spoken to him about it. I haven't spoken to him in a while. But what I can say about myself is that I don't want anyone to be hurt. And I think all presidents, presidential candidates, former, future, current presidents should be protected, and no one should be trying to, take their lives, right? There should be no attempts. Unfortunately, we live in a time where that happens, and it has happened throughout our history, unfortunately. Yeah. So what I will say is that I lived through bomb threats being sent to CNN. I lived through having to have personal security because the President of the United States called me all kinds of names and inciting violence against me with his rhetoric and his tweets. I lived through the lies. I lived through all the MAGA folks. I lived through 4chan doxing me. I lived through having to not be able to go outside without security, walking into the office, not even realizing. People would ask me when I got to the office, what's the weather like? And I'm like, I don't know, because they rushed me out of the car. Or I'm like, I'm going to be late for work because traffic is 45 minutes and I can't take the subway because someone has threatened to stab me in the neck, a MAGA person. So I lived through all of that. So I cannot do that. I do not change at my core because of perhaps what is expedient for me. And I'm not saying that's what he's doing. I live in reality. And I understand the dangers of what this man has done. Yeah. And so in order for me to have any sort of communication with him, he would have to reach out to me and say, I'm sorry for all of those things. And then I could talk to him. But I can't overlook everything that he has done and start changing my tune about him, because he has incited the most violence, at least I know in modern history, as a president and a presidential candidate than anyone. And the fact that he is blaming Democrats and Kamala Harris for this, I just think it's absolutely absurd and ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And I know you had mentioned, my next question was going to be, if you were in a room alone with Donald Trump, I know you had mentioned you really probably wouldn't have much to say to him unless he truly apologized to you. He's never apologized to anybody.
Unless he accepted an interview. If he wants to accept an interview with it, I would totally do it, but I think he's too afraid to do it.
Well, Don, if you were in private with this man after what he's done to you personally, when it comes to I'm sorry you had to go through, that's horrible, by the way. What would you say to him? And even if not public, private, would you say anything to him?
I would say, have you any shame? Don't you have any shame? The state police had to guard my mother's home because of the stuff that you said. My life has been in danger because of the stuff that you've said. I've been in courtrooms giving victim impact statements because of the things that you've said, that you have co-opted your supporters to think that you are a deity and that you can do no wrong. And I've been in a courtroom where they try to pretend, after they are caught calling CNN 20 times and threatening my life, that they are some kind of victim in all of this because you victimized them. That's what they are saying. Do you have any shame? What if it was your family that this was happening to? And also, why do you lie so much? You lied to me in an interview when I asked you directly, and I believe I was the first journalist to do it, if you were racist. And you said there's not a racist bone in my body. Why did you lie to me? And why do you actually believe the that comes out of your mouth and what you're saying? You should be ashamed of yourself, and you should be nowhere near the White House or any role as a public servant ever again. That's what I would say to him.
I couldn't agree with you more, by the way, on that one. I wanted to get and I want to talk about your memoir. I want to just ask you another CNN question, just in regards to Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, who I have a lot of respect for. I'm sure you do as well. They seem like really good people. I felt like, though, in that first presidential debate, the one with Joe Biden and Donald Trump, they didn't fact check Donald Trump at all. I was a little bit disappointed in that. And I want to get your perspective from your career as a great journalist. Did you feel like they should have given a little bit of pushback as a moderator to fact check?
So, caveat, I love both of those people. I think that they're really good journalists. And the last debate, I believe that, yes, the last debate that they did was with me. I believe it was in Detroit. It was the three of us moderating that debate. So I know what that is like. And I know that it is a tough job. Me personally, I believe that there should be fact checking during the debate, inconsistencies and inaccuracies. And I actually liked what David and Lindsay did during the ABC debate. And this whole sort of hoopla and this fake and false equivalency about they didn't fact check Kamala. Kamala Harris was not lying. She didn't lie, 40 some times or however many times during the debate. And so you cannot say, well, if you fact check this one, then you have to fact check whatever. Well, maybe that other person isn't lying.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need the amount of fact checking. So I would much prefer a debate that has fact checking in it.
Agree with you. Question? Yes, it absolutely does. And I'm with you on that one. 150.
Because you can't go back and correct it.
Right.
By the time it comes out of the mouth and it goes into the atmosphere, it's out there and people believe it.
Agree with you. We're on the same page there. In regards to Kamala Harris, the attacks from the far right, I get it on this show all the time. She slept her way to the top. She's a DEI hire. Her laugh. Donald Trump calls her dumb. This is, as we would agree, a highly educated woman who was elected in San Francisco, became a senator, worked hard her entire life. They do the same thing with Ocasio-Cortez, mocking her because, God forbid, she's a bartender that paid her way through school. As a black man living in this country, what do you make of those attacks from the far right, attacking this woman because allegedly she had a relationship with Willie Brown 40 years ago, and yet the man who they support is a liable sexual abuser? What do you make of these attacks, Don?
Well, number one, he just said he's going to be the protector of women, right? And so that is, if you're going to be the protector of women, then you should believe in autonomy, body autonomy for women, and you don't want to, shame people for their relationships. She slept her way to the top. How many times has Donald Trump cheated on his wives?
Mm-hmm.
How many kids does he have by different babies' mamas, as they say? Okay? And so, and as far as DEI, what political experience did Donald Trump have before he ran for president? Was he the alderman? Was he the city councilman? Was he the attorney general? Was he the mayor anywhere? Was he a congressman? Was he a senator? No. He was a failing businessman, right? Because who bankrupts casinos? Who sues everybody, who, according to Kellyanne Conway, built his businesses off the backs of poor people. Her words, not mine. So if anyone is a DEI hire, it is Donald Trump, who was put into place because of identity politics, because of the MAGA identity politics movement. We want someone who is like us, who can speak for either our bigotry or our racism or our phobia or whatever it is, or can speak to our wanting more of a tax cut, even though I know better. I just want more money. So if anyone is a DEI hire, it's Donald Trump. So stop telling a black person that they're a DEI hire. And if anyone slept his way to whatever it is, to the middle or whatever, it is Donald Trump. And stop shaming women about who they want to have relationships with. She's a grown ass woman. She can have a relationship with whoever she wants to and stop doing it. And again,
by the way,
her resume speaks for itself. She is the sitting vice president right now.
Was just going to say that. Also a wonderful family, a wonderful stepmother to her 2 children, and a close-knit family. Last question to this, then I want to get to your memoir. What would be your message to somebody like a Tim Scott or a Byron Donaldson? These types of people, that happen to be black, that say Donald Trump is great for black people in this country. Dr. Ben Carson. What would you say to these people that happen to be black that are standing by Donald Trump?
I would say, look, you as an American, you have the right to support whoever you want to support for any political office. But you don't have to denigrate and embarrass yourself in order to do it. You don't have to demonize your own people in order to do it. You don't have to stand on a stage and say, I just love you, man, with all of this cringe-worthy stuff. You don't have to put on a sort of minstrel act in order to gain political prominence or whatever. And let me also just say this. You don't have to just do something that you think is sort of counterintuitive or that is going to gain you political power and prominence simply because it's the shortest line to the front.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
So that's what I would say to them. So just be true to who you are, but you don't have to be embarrassing about it.
And I think many within the far right in the MAGA Republican Party are not true to who they are, and I think that's what's sad about it.
I know they're not, because let me tell you why. Because even the supporters of Donald Trump and who are MAGA or whatever in the administration now have worked for them, they would say one thing on a pre-interview, right, with a booker. They would say one thing in the green room. They would say another thing when they were on the set for me. And then when the director goes, 3, 2, 1, go, they would become someone else. And I would say, wow, what happened? I thought you just told me that Donald Trump was embarrassing. He should stop that. And you don't know if you can continue to support him because of the shit that he says.
You reminded me of a story that Eric Swalwell told me on this show where he goes into the restroom just outside the House chambers, and he sees Ted Cruz in the restroom. Ted Cruz gives him a high five and says what a great job he's doing. And Swalwell's like, it's almost like they just flipped the switch, right, Don? Yeah. If the cameras aren't on there, they all know who Donald Trump is, except for maybe a Marjorie Taylor Greene and maybe a few others. I think for the most part, these MAGA Republicans, they know, Don, who Donald Trump is, but yet they just put on this act because I think they're afraid of him. They kiss the ring.
Well, they know. Listen, and all you have to do is ask Anthony Scaramucci, who was there. Now he's like, okay, I know.
Yep.
Let me just tell you. I've been there, and let me tell you, the guy is horrible. He's this, he's that. But he doesn't have to come on television now and defend him, so he tells the truth about him. And sadly, I mean, he had to, ended not his career in politics, but not as an investor, but in order for him to get there.
Sure. And the Mooch is a personal friend of mine. He does this show all the time.
Same
and
here.
Love
Him and
the
his
Mooch.
wife. Yeah,
Such a great family and a nice guy and smart, intelligent, the opposite of Donald Trump. I want to talk to you about your new memoir, which I believe just came out. It's called I Once Was Lost, My Search for God in America. This isn't your first time writing a book, by the way. You've had quite a few top-selling books out there. Talk to me a little bit, Don, about this new memoir, and why did you decide to write this one?
For a lot of the reasons that we have already spoken about. This book is about my love of God, my love of country, how it has shaped me as an American, and it has taught me to fight against and really continue to stand up against the toxic evangelical teachings and people who tried to marginalize me. And I also wrote it because, not that this is anything new, but I think we are on a path now, it's accelerating, where religion, especially evangelical religion, it is, they're pushing us toward a theocracy. They're not only blurring the line between church and state, they're trying to erase that line. And they're using racism and homophobia and all of those things, right? Transphobia and all of those things to establish a political authority and advantage and power. We should not be creating laws. I'm not saying anything new, I believe. We should not be creating laws based on one's religious beliefs. We should not be doing that. We should not, if you don't want to have an abortion, don't have one.
Right.
If we, America, left England because of what? Political freedom. That means that you are free to worship in a way that you want to, but also free not to worship, not to believe. And because I'm just saying it to me, I am a believer. But if I am not a believer or you're not a believer, then my beliefs should not affect yours, especially in how you conduct yourself in society. And so we have laws for a reason, and then we have political, religious beliefs for a reason. And so if I don't believe in abortion, I'm not going to get an abortion. If I don't believe in gay marriage, then I'm not going to get gay married. But I'm not going to tell you what you can do with yourself and how you should think, because that's not my business. We're supposed to be about freedom of expression in this country,
and Don,
separation between church and state.
And Don, you talk about religion, of course, a lot in this new book you have. Do you feel like the separation between church and state has left the alt-right? Because it seems like they can't make that separation anymore. They won't leave people alone. They want to tell people what to do. They want to tell people that gay people, they don't want people who are gay to be married. You mentioned abortion. We know if they had it their way, the far right, they would ban abortion throughout the country. Donald Trump wouldn't even answer that on a debate stage. Would he veto a bill like that? I mean, I just feel like the Republican Party today, they've just abandoned the separation between church and state, if they ever did.
Well, even that, they've abandoned morals, integrity, and humanity. They listen to some of the stories of the women, and look, I really hate to use that word abortion, but people use it, so I will use it. I call it an abortion is an unintended or an untenable pregnancy, because they're not all unintended, right? Some of them are untenable. There's a story in my book that I write about a friend of mine, they call her Fiona, but that's not her name, where she went to the doctor, she was in her third trimester, and the baby's organs were growing outside of the body, and it was incompatible with life. So the baby was not going to live no matter what, right? Mm-hmm. And she could not, they could not give her something to speed up the pregnancy, right? Because that would be a late-term abortion. And they couldn't give her water because they may have to have emergency surgery. And they couldn't give her anything to slow down the pregnancy because all kinds of things. So she had to sit there for days in pain. Mm. And so they don't understand those things. That to me is inhumane. That goes beyond politics. That goes beyond what your religious beliefs are. So not only, this whole idea of theocracy, that they're pushing us away from democracy, I believe they're pushing us away from God. If you believe God is supposed to be benevolent and good, they're pushing us away from that. So I don't understand how these folks make so many excuses, the MAGA folks and the QAnon people. To me, again, it is a cult. It is not godlike. It is un-American. It's not patriotic, and it's inhumane.
Very well said. Before I let you go, Don, Can you give me a prediction? I don't know if you're into predictions. What do you think is going to happen in November? I'm worried, Don. I think it's going to be very close, and I'm very worried. What do you think is going to happen here? I know we still have like 44 days or 43 days to go. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, if you had asked me on any given day before, if you'd asked me after the debate, I'm like, it's over. But now I'm looking at certain polls, and not that I believe them 100% because they're a snapshot in time. I'm just surprised that we are at this point. And I predicted that Donald Trump would win in 2016. I'll just say it's tough. I don't know if I have a prediction for you because people don't always vote in their own interests, and they don't know the facts. That's why I appreciate what you're doing. They don't know the facts about the economy. They talk about, prices are high. Yes, they're coming down. I can't afford groceries. I said, but there are groceries on the shelves now. Remember when there were no groceries because the man who was in charge handled the pandemic so poorly, and the supply chain and whatever? Do you remember that? Gas prices are coming down. They're back almost to the level that they were before the pandemic. And so crime down. The new statistics the other day, just I think yesterday, that blew Fox News' mind. What do you mean crime is down? They're not including LA and New York. No, yes, they are.
That's
They're
a lie.
including all the big cities over 100,000 people. So I think that people need to know their facts. Here's what I think. Here's the thing. That's why it's important for what you do and what I do, is because we are in a TikTok, YouTube, whatever social media platform and digital platform where there are no editorial controls or rigors that you have to go through. So people can say whatever they want and people believe it because we're narrow casting so much of what we get. And so I think it's important that we tell the truth in that, because then when you're on these, especially these sites that sort of push you to the crazy far right and they're all about lies, someone's got to counter that. Because people believe those lies, and they believe that the economy is horrible and that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are doing all these terrible things, when actually he has had one of the most successful presidencies in modern history.
Sure. If you compare us to all the G7 countries that we compare our economies to, we're doing better than any of theirs.
Than anybody.
But yet they want to blame Joe Biden for all don't even get me started with that, Don. I just want to, first of all, say again, your new memoir, I Once Was Lost, My Search for God in America. You're a great author. You have some great books out there, and I have the utmost respect for what you've done in your career. And I'd love for you to come back on down the road, maybe before the election, if you have the time, my friend. But love what you do, and I really do appreciate your time. Keep up the great work, Don, and thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll come on anytime. Maybe we should, do something together, or you can come on my show as well. I would like that.
It'd be an honor to do that. Yeah, let's definitely talk about that. Don, you have a great rest of your week, my friend, and keep up the great work.
Thank you. I'm going to be interested to hear, are you going to take questions on
this? I'm going to take calls for the next hour. So if you want to continue to tune in and listen, or heck, if it's up to you if you want to stick around, but I'm going to take calls coming back. I'm going to take a quick break.
Oh my God, I would. I have a 5 o'clock show live that I do. And then there's another person. I was actually doing a podcast before you, and I stopped her in the middle of it, and I told her I would call her right back. But if I finish in time, I promise you I'll call you back. And where can I listen live? Because I usually catch you on YouTube.
Sure. So we're live on YouTube.
Okay.
So you can go to my YouTube page where we're broadcasting live. I'm also live on X. But yeah, you can just go to my YouTube page and you'll see we're broadcasting live right now, because I'm going to take some phone calls for the next hour. We get calls all over the country. So please tune in and I'll shoot you an email later tonight. Thanks for the time, Don. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
All right, take care. That's Don Lemon, everybody. I got to be honest with you. That was one of my. I've had some big names on this show, and I've had some great interviews that I've done over the years in my 20-year career. That was one of the more enjoyable interviews that I've ever done. So articulate, so intelligent, to the point, answers every question honestly. I've always respected Don Lemon very much so, but I'm a bigger fan even now. And I really do appreciate him taking the time to join us. We are going to take some phone calls on this, and Don Lemon will probably be listening, as he just said. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. And again, that number to call, 702-221-7283. Your thoughts on my interview, not just with Don Lemon, even though that's probably where we'll get most of the phone calls, which is fine, but also the Chandra Law Firm. We had him first segment as well. A new lawsuit being filed and criminal charges against Donald Trump and his vice presidential nominee, J.D. Vance, in regards to the hateful rhetoric about Haitian immigrants. So we'll take some phone calls on that as well. And again, that number, 221-7283. Please get your hands on his new memoir, by the way. I Once Was Lost, My Search for God in America. And we also have some breaking news there. You know, there was a lot of controversy about Don Lemon and that video that was put out with Melania Trump, and that was since deleted. And now we've just learned Don Lemon hasn't told anybody. He told us that he didn't put that video out. Some of his people did, and he didn't authorize it. And I believe him. And then they took it down right away. All right. So we're going to take a quick break. Please check out my website, pushingthelimits.live. Again, the website, pushingthelimits.live, where you can learn a little bit more about this show and about me. You can also buy merchandise up there, shirts, hats, beanies, you name it, we sell it. And if you don't want to buy any merchandise, you can just check that front page, the direct link. There will be a button to donate, $5, $10, $20, whatever you could afford. And we're going to take a quick break. Your thoughts on that Don Lemon interview, which I thought, personally myself, I really enjoyed talking to him. Really enjoyed it a lot. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come true. Radio U. Radio U is a 5-day course that'll teach you how to acquire your dream show. We'll teach you how to host, how to write commercial, how to interview, how to market, how to write a contract, and most importantly, how to monetize your dream radio show. You'll learn from some of the best in the business with over 75 years in broadcast experience. You'll learn from people like me. And the best part? Every single student will be live on the radio as part of the class. Plus, one student from each class will get their very own radio show. You'll be live on the air right here in Las Vegas. Radio U. The 5-day course is being offered at $699. For more information, give Radio U a call. 702-763-5024. That's 702-763-5024. Or check them out at RadioYOU101.com.
Tired of the same old date night? Craving a deeper connection with your partner? O-Box is your escape into a world of romance and passion. Each month, discover a box filled with personalized surprises, exciting activities, and a love story written just for the two of you. Ignite desire, share laughter, and make memories that last a lifetime. Your O-Box journey culminates into a beautiful love novel. Ready to write the first thrilling chapter? Let the O-Box adventure begin. Visit our website, obox.com. That's OBOXXX.com. And get started.
Hello, I'm Ron Quince, and I'm running for Congress as a nonpartisan candidate in District 1. I'm dedicated to serving our entire community. In this challenging time, it's more important than ever to have leaders who focus on unity and progress. I believe in putting people over politics and finding practical solutions that benefit us all. Never stop believing in America, no matter our troubles and turmoil. We can and we will do better. We must be brave. Stop voting for those politicians who care about their career and gaining power but don't improve our lives. I believe in America and I believe in you. You need a candidate who believes in policy over party because you deserve better. In Nevada, every voice matters. I humbly ask for your vote this coming election, November 5th. To learn how we can create a better America, please visit quincefornevada.com. Paid for by Ron Quince for Congress.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits. Thank you so much for joining us. We just had Don Lemon on the show. I thought it was a great interview, 30 minutes. I'll pat myself on the back for that one. I'll have to go back and listen to it. I also want to remind all of you guys, the official gaming bar of the PTL radio show is Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. Great promotions, including Sunday. I think it's the last Sunday in September, if I'm not mistaken. If you earn 350 points playing a machine, you get $50 in free slot play between the hours of 12 p.m. to 8 a.m. and a great place to catch a game. Just chill out and relax. Check them out, Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. I want to take your phone calls now, specifically about that interview with Don Lemon. And if you have any thoughts on Springfield, Ohio, we also spoke to the attorney who's filed criminal charges against Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. Let's get right to the calls at 702-221-7283. We are the most interactive talk show in the entire country. We take calls from all over the country. In fact, all over the world. We took calls from Australia, from Switzerland this week. All right, let's start off with Christy. Christy is first up on PTL. Hi, Christy.
Hi.
Hi, Christy. What's on your mind? What'd you think about that interview with Don Lemon?
Oh, that was so fabulous. I want to say first time calling, and I really appreciate what you do. I feel so privileged to be able to get in today to comment on how wonderful that interview was.
Thank
you. Boy, I sure do miss Don Lemon, but I don't watch CNN anymore anyway.
Well, hey, he said maybe we can
him in other platforms.
He said maybe we can team up. So I don't know what that means, but boy, I'd love to do a weekly show with Don Lemon. I think we would kill it, So
oh yeah,
we'll see if we can. We'll see if we can get something going there. But I appreciate your kind words.
I thought you asked some really important questions. I really liked that you asked about his interactions with Cuomo lately, because that sure was a great part of CNN's lineup, having them together and their differences and
I'm really
the way
disappointed.
That they could get along.
I got to be honest, though. I'm really disappointed in Chris Cuomo. I didn't really want to get into this with Don Lemon. I don't like some of the things he's saying about Donald Trump recently, and I don't know why.
He sure has changed.
Yeah, I mean, I always appreciated.
Or maybe not.
Well, I don't know. I always appreciated Cuomo, getting after it, as he says, with people, and I think he does a good job in interviewing people. But at the same time, the statements he made about Donald. Listen, nobody wants well, maybe not nobody, but I don't, and I'm sure you don't. We don't want assassination attempts. We don't want violence. But that doesn't mean I'm going to sit here and call Donald Trump Superman. I mean, it seems like Cuomo's putting him on this pedestal, and I don't understand it.
And he shouldn't be platforming him when he's just going to lie the whole time anyway. But,
right.
But about his new book, too, I'm super excited. I loved his book, This is the Fire. And if any of your listeners hadn't read that yet, go for it. It's really great.
He's great.
And I'm super excited to read his I Once Was Lost. It sounds like a super great book. And
very
I
smart.
just think it's great.
Very smart man on the right side of history, and I like his interviewing skills. And I appreciate your phone call, and thank you for calling in for the first time. It's nice to hear from you. Thank you. 702-221-7283. Mark is next. What's going on, Mark?
Hey, Brian. Great interview with Don Lemon. He was the reason why I watched CNN. Once he left, I was done with CNN, basically.
He'll probably enjoy hearing that, actually.
Terrific interview.
Thank you.
Now to get to something where calmer beats calmer. Down in Florida, did you hear what happened?
No, what happened?
That shooter, or the guy who was stalking Trump and was caught by the golf course?
Yeah.
He was just assigned a judge, and guess who?
Interesting. I did not know that.
Eileen Cannon.
Oh, is that right?
That's correct.
I think I did hear that last night. Eileen Cannon. Yeah, she's a disgrace, by the way. An absolute
and Jack
disgrace.
Smith is trying to have her removed. He appealed to the appellate court.
Well, she's a disgrace. Almost every single one of her decisions, they call it a two-tier justice system, right, Mark? Because they say it's two-tiered and it's fixed for Democrats, but in this case, it's not. Eileen Cannon has sided with Donald Trump almost every single time, and she's a MAGA disgrace. She's a MAGA judge. Let's call her. She's no better than Clarence Thomas, as far as I'm concerned. Thank you, Mark. Let's go to 702-221-7283. Michael is next. What's up, Michael?
Hey, yeah, I was just calling in. This is just some questions about Kamala Harris that I wasn't clear about. I'm voting for Kamala Harris, but there's a couple things that I saw that just didn't really jive with what I thought her beliefs and views were.
Okay.
Can you be specific?
Please. Yes, sir.
Okay, the first one was I saw it, and I know it was on one of the ads, but it was her talking about how she would let all trans people in prison get operations and be taken care of through the prison system.
Okay, so here, let me give you my response to this, right? So
okay,
there are people in life, whether they're in prison or whether they're people like you and me, I'm assuming you're not in prison, that have severe depression and anxiety and issues with their body. And I'm not just talking about your typical 12 or 13-year-old kid that might be a little bit insecure with their body. Major.
I get you there.
Right. So with that being said, implementing someone that can get maybe mental help or somebody that wants a surgery that can get them out of the depression that they are in and that maybe could help them. So it's not like a prisoner can just walk up to a staff member and say, hey, I want to get that transgender surgery because it's paid for by the American people. That's not how this would work. My understanding is there's a lot of intense interviews with specialists, with psychologists, with doctors until they sign off on it. So if you disagree with that, then you're entitled to your opinion. I don't necessarily, but we're talking about mental well-being, physical well-being. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. Now, I don't.
I don't either at all.
Does that make sense?
No problem against transgenders.
I hear you. I'm not saying you do.
I was wondering how that response would go with the MAGA side saying,
they'll hate it. They'll hate it.
Harris is going to pay for them.
Listen, they'll hate it all, my friend, right? Because
I know they will.
Many of these MAGA supporters, they hate transgenders. They hate gay people. They hate people of color. Now, people can yell at me and say, Brian, that's not true. Look at the base of his supporters the other day at his rally that were saying, send them back. These people hate anybody that is not like them. Usually an uneducated, middle-aged white person, right? I'm glad I'm not them, okay? But
I'm too.
Yeah. So I don't necessarily. Now, MAGA Republicans will say, oh, she wants to pay for all transgender surgeries for everybody that's behind bars. That's not factually accurate either. There are a lot of steps and a process that you have to go through. And I can't imagine there'd be many of those surgeries that would take place. There'd be some, but there's a lot of steps.
That would be my view too.
Yeah.
I just wanted a little bit of ammo in case I'm talking to somebody and they're like, well, Kamala's going to do this. I'd be like, well, that's not actually true.
No, it's not. They have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. And they listen to the red meat on Fox News, Newsmax, and OAN. What was the set? You wanted to bring up something else, right, sir?
Yeah. The other one that I was wondering about was the tariffs that were made by Trump when he was in, and these tariffs have been continued through China. I just want to know if that's true and why they would have been kept in place, or was there something preventing them from removing them?
Well, here's what I know. First of all, Donald Trump, I'm not even sure Donald Trump has an understanding of what a tariff is when he talks about tariffs. In general terms, and I will look up that information, but in general terms, I will say this. Donald Trump is the guy that praised the president of China during COVID multiple times on what a wonderful job they were doing. Keep in mind, the virus was created in China in a lab, as far as we know. But yet Donald Trump said he was the toughest on China, right? He was tough on China. No, he wasn't. And his daughter made upwards of $500 to $600 million in trademarks from the Chinese government. So I'm going to look into that a little bit more in regards to your question about tariffs, but I think I have a little bit more knowledge on the situation than, in fact, Donald Trump does. I appreciate the call, sir. Thank you so much. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you would like to be a part of the conversation. Let's see, who are we going to go to next year? Why don't we go to Frank? Frank, what's going on, man?
Yeah, what's up, dude? I'm calling from Texas.
Okay.
And I know you want to make these brief, and I'm going to make it real brief. Just a quick background. I'm 65. Started voting when I was 18, which would have been 1980. Jimmy Carter, who lost to Reagan, voted. I'm a registered Democrat, and I voted Democrat.
Yeah.
Consistently throughout my whole life, up and down the ticket, no exception. Right. Just so you know, okay.
Right. Yep.
And all I'm doing is trying to hold on. Yeah, I'm getting another call, but I'm going to ignore it. All I'm trying to do is perhaps get you to admit that you might have said something that was not the thing to say. And I'm not one to defend Trump.
Okay, so tell me what I said. What did I say?
Okay, you said it on a number of times. You said it, I would have let it go. But you brought up the fact that he, in his response to the debate, he made mention that the audience reacted negatively, and then you said that you brought out that there was no audience.
There was no
But
live
you're a bright
audience.
man.
There was no live
Right,
audience at the debate.
But he didn't mention the live audience. He just mentioned audience, and you're a bright man, so you should know that he could have been, and he probably was referring to the audience in general. Just as everybody has.
So he knows of the 67 million people that were watching on television at that moment. He knew the exact reaction. Sir, that's absurd.
No, he didn't say that. This was afterwards when he had.
I know exactly what you're referring to, and hear me out on this one, sir. Okay, he was talking about a specific topic, and in that topic that he was discussing, he said the audience at that time was on his side. Okay, number one, he has no idea what the audience felt like or what they said or the way they reacted because there was nobody live there watching in person. Now, if you're making I would use the term excuse that, oh, well, he just meant the live TV audience. He has no idea what their reaction was right afterwards. What we do know is that the overwhelming majority of Americans would agree that Kamala Harris wiped the floor clean with Donald Trump. Do you see the things that Donald Trump says every single day that are just bizarre, weird? He still thinks he's running against Joe Biden. He doesn't. He said he was in Louisiana when he was in a whole nother state. Every day, the guy says things that are absolutely ludicrous. So with all due respect, and I appreciate your service, by the way, but unlike you, I am not going to give him the benefit of the doubt ever. And I appreciate your service to this country, sir, and I do appreciate you calling in. There was no live audience. He doesn't know the reaction on people's faces or the way they reacted right after something was said in the debate. It's absurd. He knows he lost the debate. He's a coward. It's why he won't debate her again on CNN. It's why he won't debate. And the excuse is, well, it's too late now. No, it's not. Why? Because mail-in balloting started? That's his excuse. It's too late. Whatever happened to anytime, anywhere? Donald Trump is a coward. He knows he lost the debate. It's why minutes after the debate, he went into the spin room because his head was spinning. I got to clean this up. He got destroyed. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to David. David is next up on PTL. What's up, David?
Hey, Brian. Thank you. I just wanted to talk about your interview with Don Lemon.
Sure.
First of all, in my opinion, I'm just kind of amazed that anybody still watches corporate media in any format at all. But I guess, that's kind of on them. Having said that, I don't really agree with how you gave him kind of a softball interview. And the reason I say that is because when he was talking to Elon during that interview, and he was saying moderation isn't censorship. Well, I'd like to know what his idea of censorship actually is, because who gets to be the moderator in this world? Who gets to pick?
I'll
what
answer.
Is hate speech and
I'll
what
answer.
isn't?
So we don't have to have a softball conversation. I'll answer it, and I think Don Lemon would agree with me on this, even though I don't speak for him. There's something called private entities. Free speech is towards the government. It is not towards private business, right? Now, if you think that anybody in a private entity, whether it be Twitter, X, whatever, can say whatever the heck they want with no parameters, I think that's absurd.
No.
That's here's my line. You shouldn't be allowed to incite violence. You shouldn't be allowed to hate speech about someone's religion. You shouldn't be allowed to threaten somebody, and you shouldn't be allowed to.
Wait. What is hate speech for somebody's religion? You can say something you disagree with about somebody's religion. You want
to ask me? I think you're a smart enough person to understand what hate speech is. I'm not going to repeat those words on the air.
I'm not saying hate speech doesn't exist. What I'm saying is you should be allowed to say hateful things on a forum like that.
You should.
And people can.
You shouldn't be allowed. In my opinion, you shouldn't be allowed. Okay, so let me ask you a question then, flat out.
Sure.
Should you be allowed to call a black person the N-word on Twitter? You're not threatening them. Should you be allowed to do that?
Yeah, you should.
Okay,
I completely disagree with
it.
I
think it's
immoral.
I think it's ridiculous what you're saying, quite frankly, that you want to live in a world.
No, it's not. No.
I think it's ridiculous. No, free speech. You
ridiculous.
Keep saying free speech, sir, and I'm going to try to calm down here, but it's frustrating for me. Free speech pertains to the government, not private entities. Why do you keep?
And when these private entities they decide what people can.
It's their decision. Say. It's their decision.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
And Lemon was pressing Musk, saying that he shouldn't allow those things.
Because it's our opinion, and I agree with Don Lemon. And even though Elon Musk is allowed to do it. I think he's a disgrace. And quite frankly, I think anybody who runs a business, social media or otherwise, that's allowing the N-word to be used or things of that nature is disgusting, and it's a disgrace. Now, I disagree with it. I'm not saying that they're breaking the law. Don Lemon isn't saying they're breaking the law. However, I will say this. There are people on X that incite violence every day, and they are not, their accounts should be taken down. I have a serious problem with that, and I disagree with it. But what do you disagree with Don Lemon? He's challenging Elon Musk. He shares my opinion on it. I'm trying to understand, like, what you guys just disagree.
Well, I can explain. It's not, my point with him disagreeing is he's very clearly for hardcore censorship. I mean, that's very obvious.
Define hardcore censorship. Define, what do you mean by that?
Okay, sure. Not saying anything that sounds, I agree with threats and stuff like that, but like making fun of somebody's race, somebody's religion, making memes in poor taste.
Well, he disagrees.
Anything.
He disagrees with what Elon Musk is doing, and I happen to agree with him. That should have no place in our society. It'd be one thing, sir, if you're on a public sidewalk.
But here's the thing about no place. It shouldn't have any place in society, but it should be allowed to be in society and then just be shunned.
And that is,
because if you then
and that is up to,
if we disagree on that.
I know, but that has nothing to do with freedom of speech. It has to do with the decision that a private business makes. I disagree with Elon Musk. Don Lemon disagrees with Elon Musk. We'll just agree to disagree. But I don't know what you mean by softball interview. Like,
well, okay, I can bring up one more point if you'd let me.
Okay, go ahead. But that first point, we just disagree on that. I disagree with you, sir. I don't think on a social media platform you should be allowed to call somebody the N-word. You're okay with that. Even though you might disagree with that language, you're okay with that social media platform saying, hey, you know what? You're allowed to do it. We disagree,
Because
sir. And I think
I know what kind of road it can. Okay, fine. If you agree to disagree, that
go ahead. What was your second point? Go ahead.
My second point is that, you know, when Lemon was talking to Chris Cuomo a couple of years ago about COVID and everything, I mean, he was being blatantly disingenuous talking about horse dewormer. They knew that they weren't talking about that. It wasn't people consuming horse dewormer. They were taking a different form of ivermectin because they were making fun of Joe Rogan saying he's telling people.
Well, yeah, Joe Rogan's an idiot.
I mean, Lemon,
he's a meathead. He's an idiot.
Regardless of whether he's an idiot or not, he wasn't saying that. And Lemon and Cuomo 100% knew that, and they, like so many other people on
here's
CNN,
what I will
being
say.
completely dishonest about.
Okay, so first of all, the first thing I would say is I don't know what you do for a living. I'm not a doctor. I would assume you're not a doctor, so I don't want to get into a COVID conversation with somebody that doesn't have any medical experience. However, I will say this, okay? There was a lot of misinformation. There still is today in regards to the vaccines, in regards to COVID. Here's what I do know. We were losing
on CNN.
No, you're wrong. Oh, really?
CNN.
So there wasn't misinformation on any other network. It was just CNN?
Oh, yes, there was. But
okay,
I'm saying
thank you.
CNN
Well, you seem to be singling. Okay, well, I disagree
I'm not
with you.
singling them out. It's just he worked for them.
Okay.
If you had somebody who came
So
was on Fox,
we were losing at one point 3,000 to 5,000 people a day. We heard that there were microchips in the vaccines, which is a absolute nonsense. We still hear to this day, and by the way, it's not coming from CNN and it's not coming from the left. All these young children that are dying from myocarditis, which is also not true. There are very limited cases, but we hear a lot more misinformation today, not just when it comes from COVID and the vaccines, but about elections from the right than we do the left. Would you agree with me there? Because CNN wasn't sued $800 million for lying about the 2020 election when it came to Dominion voting machines. I don't recall CNN being sued a great deal of money when it came to anything in regards to COVID. Why is it that the right? Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with that. Look, I'm not acting like the right is not without sin in this stuff, but I mean, I'm mentioning CNN specifically, obviously, because you had Lemon.
Okay,
on,
so all
you
you so here's
a lot of the things that he did that were wrong.
So a statement. Maybe in jest that I don't recall in regards to horse.
In jest, Brian,
okay,
I'm telling you.
So he made a statement about horse dewormer that you disagreed with, that you believe is untrue, and you disagree with Don Lemon's opinion when it comes to censorship and private entities. Okay, so what? So what? What else? I mean, to me, that's okay. Big deal. I disagree with you about the censorship stuff. we did, and I think most people would agree with me in this country, and I think most people would agree with Don Lemon that the N-word shouldn't be used on a social media platform like X. I think most people would agree with me that the misinformation when it comes to medical stuff the last several years overwhelmingly has not come from CNN. It's come from far-right media entities. So I don't know why I understand Don Lemon used to work for CNN. I get that. But most of the disinformation coming out is not coming from the left, comes from the right. Do you know 75% of Republicans still think Donald Trump won the 2020 election? They're all dopes. They're dopes.
Yeah, but Brian, I've seen you do this on your show before. You call people out for playing whataboutism when they want to answer your question. And
I answered every one of your questions.
No. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying about the right being dishonest with things. I'm saying that Lemon specifically is a very dishonest, disingenuous, I'll put journalist in quotations because I think he's a sham journalist. I think what he does is totally shameful.
Why?
And you just didn't really press him. Well, I already explained why. Because
he made a statement about horse dewormer, which, by the way, I think
he didn't. No, but you have to add the context. He didn't just make a casual statement. They had this long conversation about how they were saying that Rogan told people to take horse dewormer, which he did not do, and they knew that, but they didn't do anything about it because they wanted to make it seem like
he talked about horse dewormer on his show. I remember listening to that segment. Now, whether he told other people to take it, I can't speak to. He talked about horse dewormer on his show, and you know who he spoke to about? Because I remember this segment. Aaron Rodgers, a dope NFL quarterback who also doesn't have any medical expertise. You see, I get angry when people think that they're all of a sudden infectious disease experts, the far right. They're infectious disease experts.
Yeah, that's kind of a straw man argument. Nobody's saying, I'm not saying that they're all these experts.
Okay, I'll have to go back. I'll have to go back and maybe take the time to listen to when Don Lemon had this conversation with Chris Cuomo. But Don Lemon has been a journalist for decades and decades. You're calling him dishonest and a liar because of one thing he said about horse dewormer, and you think he was too tough on Elon Musk. I think most of my listeners, with all due respect, would disagree with you on that, but we'll have to agree to disagree, and I do appreciate your phone call. 702-221-7283. I remember that segment that the Beefcake did on horse dewormer. He's a moron. And by the way, so's Aaron Rodgers. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Jack. Jack is next on PTL.
Right.
What's up, Jack?
Hey man, I was trying to get up. I was trying to get into the comments in what do you call it, TikTok.
Yep.
I was arguing with the guest there, but yeah, it's nice to hear from you, man.
Yeah, what'd you think about that call with Don Lemon?
I mean, I'll tell you this. I like Don Lemon. I think him and I can go for a beer together and have a good conversation. So I think I don't believe he's honest when he's in front of the media.
Why? Why do you say that? Tell me.
He just feels disingenuous, man. And and when I say that, I will say I'll give him some ups when he did his Don Lemon on the street, and he actually had a lot of Trump supporters, and he released that. And now that for me, I was like, yes, man, Don, you're back. And I was excited for that. But then he's gone back to being a guest on CNN and taking a complete kind of partisan position. And now, I'll say,
well, let me hold on. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you said he takes partisan positions. Would you say I do the same thing? Would you say I take partisan positions?
Yeah. So yeah, I
okay. So give me an example. Let's talk about this because I think it's a good conversation. You think I take partisan positions? Just give me one example, and then let's talk about it.
Okay. So Don Lemon made claims that Donald Trump devices hate, he creates hate, and he's a racist.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that as well, and I can give you examples of why I believe that.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I'm interviewing Don Lemon, Don Lemon's a great man, great reporter. I'm just going to say, hey, demonstrate that for me, man. Show me some examples.
Sure.
Unfortunately, I kind of felt like it was more of a kind of a broham for you guys.
Okay, well, let's start with that. First of all, it was Donald Trump who said in an interview in Playboy magazine that he did not want black people counting his money in his casinos. He wanted Jews counting his money. He's had in the last 28 positions that he has hired, high-level positions, they've all been white people. He's had one of the whitest administrations By the way, the thousands of discrimination lawsuits that he had to pay out way before he became the president of the United States. Are you aware of that? Before he became the president, thousands of discrimination lawsuits that he lost.
Are you going to go on a diatribe and ask me 6 questions and only let me
I'm not
answer
asking.
one?
I'm not asking you questions. The question is different. I'm giving you examples of why I believe Donald Trump is a racist. Those aren't questions.
Ask me 3 or 6 different questions.
I'm not asking you questions. I'm giving you examples of why I believe Donald Trump is, in fact, a racist, bigoted individual. Let me ask you another question. Okay, I'll ask you a question, okay? When NASCAR decided to ban the Confederate flag, and I think most people in this country know what the Confederate flag represents: hatred, bigotry, racism. 24 hours after NASCAR banned the Confederate flag, Donald Trump did an interview on Fox News attacking NASCAR, angry at NASCAR for banning the Confederate flag. Now, you tell me, sir, people that love the Confederate flag, that defend the Confederate flag, that are angry when a large business bans the Confederate flag, what would you call those people?
Okay, those people would be bigots, likely. However,
okay, so Donald Trump is likely a bigot. Would you admit that?
Let me finish. Were the people angry about the Confederate flag being banned, or were they angry about the freedom of expression? Because you tried to trap the last guy in this, and you tried to trap him.
Hold on a second. Okay, hold on a second. First of all, the first thing you said is probably the only thing I agree with, which is most likely a bigot. Yes, Donald Trump is most likely a bigot. You see, when we talk about hate speech, when we talk about I'm responding to what you just said. A normal reaction from normal human beings that are decent people, when we talk about the Confederate flag, when we talk about the Nazi sign, when we talk about the white power sign, the one that Kyle Rittenhouse used, okay, no, they're symbols of hatred. The Confederate flag is a symbol of hate and racism. The white supremacy sign is a symbol of hatred. The Nazi sign is a symbol of hatred. When people and their first reaction to it on a national show is to be angry that somebody barred it from being within their business, that is bigoted in nature, and I would label that person most likely a racist.
So you're going 3 avenues over. I said the people that like Confederate flags are likely bigoted. However, if you're standing up against people censoring speech, does that make you bigoted? Even if what you're defending,
you're not. This has nothing to do with censoring speech. If you're talking about, hold on, let me finish and let me explain. So hopefully you can understand. With all due respect.
Oh, I can understand.
Okay,
it's like Don Lemon.
No, I don't.
And Twitter.
I don't think you do. So I'm going to try to explain.
Don Lemon and Twitter. It's
okay.
The same example.
Okay. I'm going to try to explain it to you. Okay. When we're talking about freedom of speech, it doesn't pertain to NASCAR or private business.
Freedom. I know it's not private business.
Then if it doesn't, then hold on. Let me finish. If we agree, which I think we do, and if freedom of speech doesn't pertain to private business, then why do you keep making excuses for the bigots, which I agree with, that are defending it? It only pertains to the government freedom of speech.
Sure.
It's private business, and this is a flag. Donald Trump has a huge platform, the former leader of the free world, okay? And he is defending a flag. Now, if you want to make an excuse for him and say, well, he's defending freedom of speech, this has nothing to do with
that.
Okay, come again. Go ahead.
That's not what I said. I asked the question. I said, were they defending this or that? Because I'm not aware of this.
Here's why Donald Trump did what he did. Here's why I believe Donald Trump did what he did. Okay. He knows that his base of supporters, not all of them, but
when did he make this claim?
Okay, let me finish my statement. I just started the statement by saying, in my opinion. So if you'll let me finish. In my opinion, Donald Trump defended the Confederate flag because he knows these are not Democrats that are going to be voting back then for Joe Biden or voting for Kamala Harris. He knows that his base of supporters, his base, not all of them, are Proud Boy members, people like David Duke, and the same types of people that stormed the Capitol on January 6th, which are right-wing fringe groups, some of them hate groups and white supremacist groups. If he gets up there and he denounces the Confederate flag, he knows he's losing part of his base. He's a coward at best case scenario, a coward who was okay with defending those who throw out hate speech and proudly show their Confederate
How long are
flag.
you going to editorialize for?
I'm sorry?
How long are you going to editorialize for? Because this is all your opinion.
How
right?
am I an editor? What the hell? Okay, you don't even know what I am.
You started the conversation
no,
with
stop. Hey, I'm going to call you a dope now, okay? Because you're obviously not very intelligent and you think you are. So let me be very clear so even somebody like you can understand, because you have no idea what freedom of speech pertains to. I thought you did. And now you have no idea what I do. Ever since I've been doing a talk show, I never called myself a journalist. I am an opinionated talk show host. That means, sir, and I'm going to speak slowly for you now, it means I share my opinions. I talk about the news. I try to be fact-based, but I'm going to have many of opinions. Some people are going to disagree with them. This isn't editorial anything. I let dopes like you call into this show, and I probably had you on 10 minutes too long. You don't understand what freedom of speech is. I never called myself a journalist, and you seem to defend all of Donald Trump's rhetoric and even defending the Confederate flag. Have a nice day, sir. You don't even know what this show is. You don't even know the difference between an opinionated talk show host and what's an editorial person or a journalist. What a dope. 702-221-7283. I've never said once I'm a journalist on this show. That guy doesn't know what freedom of speech is. Freedom of speech doesn't pertain to private business, you dope. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Herb. Herb is next on PTL. What's up, Herb?
Well, Brian, I just want to say this. I agree with you. The N-word should not be used on any platform. I mean, it's an offensive word.
Well, we agree.
We know that it's been like that.
We agree, Herb, and I think most people would agree with us, regardless of whether you and I might disagree on politics or policy. It's a horrible word, right? And it doesn't really matter what race, right, Herb, what religion you are. You shouldn't be allowed on any social media platform to attack somebody based on skin color or religion. I mean, it seems pretty simple, right?
Okay, so let's talk about the religion part.
Sure.
And I've called you about this a long time ago.
Yep.
And I don't think you're going to stop saying it, but you offend Christians every time you say Cheeto Jesus. That's an offensive. That's
okay. So here's why I say that word. And by the way,
let me finish saying what I'm saying.
Okay, go ahead, and then I will respond.
So the point being is that offends us. You don't talk about Muhammad. Okay. You don't talk
Let's talk about
Buddha.
that. Okay, hold on.
You make the comment about
Herb.
Jesus.
Okay, let's have a conversation, Herb. Let me respond to what you just said. First of all, there is no analogy or direct correlation to calling Donald Trump Cheeto Jesus and somebody calling somebody the N-word. They're comparing apples to oranges. That's number one. Number two, when I use the term Cheeto Jesus, here's why I use that term. As you know, many people in some religions, like Christianity, look up to Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior, and that's fine. I have absolutely no problem with that. You're entitled to do so. However, the reason why I put Donald Trump's name in there, Cheeto Jesus, in reference to the people out there that I am mocking that look up to Donald Trump like he's Jesus. So if any Christians out there have a problem with me using the term Cheeto Jesus, I will give them the same explanation that I give you. They look up to Donald Trump like he's Jesus. What do you think Jesus would say? Hold on. What do you think Jesus would say about Donald Trump? A perpetual liar, a man who's got 5 kids with 3 different women, who has been attacking women, minorities, people of color for decades. So if people, I'll be very clear to end this, and then we can move on to something else, Herb. For any Christian out there that takes offense with me calling Donald Trump Cheeto Jesus, shove it. Next.
Let's go back to your original premise. You said that there's no comparison between that and the N-word.
There isn't.
I'm black. Listen to me. I'm black.
Okay.
I don't want to be called the N-word. However, I'm also a Christian, and that's more important to me than being black.
Okay, so
when you listen to me, just listen for a change, Brian.
I have been listening to you, and you're not making any sense.
Okay, I'm not making any sense to you.
No, or
And
many
that's
many
the
people.
problem. You're being the arbiter.
You're offended,
of what's right.
sir.
Brian,
sir,
why don't you listen?
I have been listening to you.
You're
You are
being
trying to make the comparison. As a black man, somebody calling you the N-word, to me going on the air and mocking Donald Trump and calling him Cheeto Jesus. Herb, you're entitled to your opinions, but with all due respect, that is ridiculous. The N-word dates back to time, and I think we all know how hurtful that word is to all Americans, especially those that are African Americans. I tried to give you a basis of why I call him Cheeto Jesus, mocking those people who look up to him like he's Jesus. And now I'm starting to question you. Do you look up to Donald Trump like he's Jesus, Herb? Can you please answer that question for me?
Brian, no, I don't.
Okay,
But
I'm
listen to
glad.
me.
Okay, hold on. I'm glad to hear you say that, Herb. I'm glad. What would you say to somebody who does look up to Donald Trump like they're the next Messiah? That a Christian that looks up to Donald Trump as their Lord and Savior. There are many of those people out there, people that buy the Trump condoms, people that buy the Trump gold sneakers, people that buy the Donald Trump Bibles for $70. So, Herb, my question to you is, what do you think of those Christians? What do you think of those people?
Brian, listen to me.
Why don't you answer my
What
question?
is more important? What is more important to you? Being from the East Coast and being Caucasian or being
Herb,
Jewish?
I'm going to ask you the
What's more
question.
important to
Herb,
you?
we're having a dialogue, and in that dialogue, you ask me
You
a question.
can't have a dialogue,
Herb,
Brian. You don't know how.
Herb, I'm
You don't
asking
know
you.
how.
Herb, I'm asking you a question. After you answer my question, you may ask me a question, and I will answer it. That's how a conversation
Okay.
works. Quite frankly, sir,
Okay.
I do know how to have conversations. You're just not listening to me. Now I'm going to ask you the question again, which you failed to answer. What do you make of the Christians out there? We know they're out there, not you in particular, but the Christians out there that look up to Donald Trump as their Lord and Savior and the next Messiah. They buy the Trump Bibles. They buy the Trump condoms. They buy the Trump everything. They look up to him like he is their God. What do you make of those specific Christian people that I see at some of his rallies? What do you make of those people, Herb?
Brian, you'd have to ask them. I don't.
All right.
That's their
You won't answer. You won't answer a question. I'm not going to continue. Quite frankly, sir, you don't know how to have a conversation. And here's why you won't get rid of them. Here's why you won't answer the question. Because you know I'm right. Those people are cultists, and they're an embarrassment to your religion. You won't answer the question because you know I'm right. They're an embarrassment to Christianity. Those are the people when I refer to Cheeto Jesus, because they look up to Donald Trump like he's the next Jesus. Now, you can disagree with me, but that has no direct correlation and no excuse in any way, shape, or form in any circumstance to call somebody black the N-word. And that's what you're trying to do, make a direct correlation. You lost the argument. You don't know how to have a conversation. Have a nice day. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Jack. Jack is next up on PTL. What's up, Jack?
Hey, Brian, what's going on, man?
Hey, man, what's up?
The phone lines are ripe with the oxygen thieves today. Listen, it's a cult, man. Like, you know, I don't know how many times we talk about it, but it's just so similar to when you got a rise out of them with the Christian Jesus thing. And these are the same people. They claim to know the Constitution. They claim to know the Bible. They don't know the first thing about freedom of speech. They don't know the first thing about private entities versus public entities. They don't know the first thing about freedom of religion. Unless it's their religion, then you're free to practice. If you have any other religion, then they're bigoted against it.
Right.
The same thing with the Second Amendment. You know, they want to tell you, you know, the right to bear arms shall not be infringed, but they always leave out a well-regulated, and that the fact that, you know, these laws or the Constitution at that time was written when people were packing muskets. I mean,
exactly.
They act like, you know, they had the forethought to.
Can I ask you a
think that people
question
were
too?
gonna be-
Because you
Yeah.
make a good point, by the way, with the muskets. I talk about that all the time on this show. It seems like, why is it these people don't understand what freedom of speech is? They think it pertains to private businesses. It doesn't. If somebody wants to go on a public sidewalk and put up hate speech or the N-word or whatever, obviously it's horrible. We don't want people to do that. But the government can't get involved in that, right? But when it comes to a private entity, I believe it's their responsibility to not be able, to be able to say, hey, the N-word shouldn't be allowed on the platform. I think that's a very fair opinion. And why is it that people say that Don Lemon is trying to censor people? No, we're not. We're not trying to censor people. We just don't want hate speech, and we're calling on the Elon Musks of the world to police it. That's all.
We had these same people were the ones that had the problem with wearing masks in stores and people asking them to leave, and they were okay with no hat, no shirt, no shoes, no service, but you add a health risk or whatever, and you add a conspiracy to it, and they're ready to go to war. But it doesn't. We don't draw the line at just the supporters. These are people in Congress. There was Marjorie Taylor Greene bringing up facts that she's getting kicked off of. I don't know if it was Twitter or X or whatever it was for hate speech, and she thought she yelling freedom of speech in a congressional hearing. Right. She just doesn't understand that a private company can ask you to leave. That private company can set rules and regulations.
Bingo.
And then you get hit with either a ban or whatever. And if you don't behave yourself, then they kick you off totally.
It's so interesting that you bring that up. And by the way, thank you for a great phone call. You're right. So back during the days of COVID, I used to play these clips of idiots, because that's what they are, idiots going into these stores, refusing to put on a mask. And they're so dumb, they don't even understand that the business has the right to refuse service. You're so right about that. They're so stupid, right? They don't even understand the basic premise of freedom of speech and how it pertains to private business. Guess what? It doesn't. Great call. Thank you. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Al. Al is next on PTL. What's going on, Al?
Hey, Brian, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I got a question for you. You asked Don Lemon about the black people who are supporting Donald Trump. He gave you an answer, which that's kind of irrelevant. But the question that I want to ask you is, what would you say to the people who complained that Barack Obama was president for 8 years and he's from the south side of Chicago, and it's worse now than before he became president, and the people were complaining that Barack Obama black.
What's worse?
The city is worse. There's more crime right now. Okay, it had never improved.
Okay.
I would think that if I was the president
I would
of
respond
South
to that.
Central,
I would respond to that.
Okay. What would you say to the people? Go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
let me in reference to Chicago. First of all, the president of the United States doesn't control cities. It starts with the mayor and then the governor. That's number one. Number two, what I would say is when it comes to gun control, I think the big issue that Chicago has, and quite frankly, Al, it's an issue that this entire country has, is gun violence. It doesn't matter whether it's a gang violence, a home invasion, or a school shooting. Innocent people dying are innocent people dying. And what I would say is after the Sandy Hook shooting, when Barack Obama was president of the United States, he tried to do everything in his power as president to put comprehensive background checks and more laws on the books that would probably save lives, like a assault weapons ban. And Republicans are the ones that wouldn't allow him to do it. You cannot fault Democrats for trying to do things when it comes to gun control and comprehensive, background checks when Republicans will not allow it to happen, Al. How could you blame Barack Obama for that? He tried to do everything in his power.
Okay, well, let me tell you this. Okay, it's not just gun violence. It's the schools that are messed up.
Okay,
it's not just guns.
Listen, we can go.
It's just the whole
economy. We can go across. We can go across the board. But a big issue that Chicago has, tops on their list, is gang violence and gun violence. People that are killed with guns. Now, if you want to go down the list of, well, our schools aren't doing this, and here's what I'll tell you. When Barack Obama took office, he had a horrible economy thanks to George W. Bush. He turned it around. Look at the economy if you want to talk about the economy, look at the economy that Barack Obama left Donald Trump. Look at the economy that Donald Trump left Joe Biden. Bill Clinton left this country in a surplus. I have my criticisms of Bill Clinton, the human being, but Bill Clinton left this country in a surplus, and George W. Bush ruined it. Barack Obama took us from a tanking economy to an economy that was prospering. Donald Trump left our economy in shambles. Look at what the Joe Biden administration have done. Compared to all the other G7 countries, our inflation is way down. The economy, the NASDAQ, that's why they can run on the record. Why is it that every single time we have a Republican president, at least in my lifetime, they completely obliterate the economy, yet they want to blame Democrats for everything? Why is that, Al?
The thing is that, under Ronald Reagan, we did improve, okay? And,
I'm talking about my lifetime. My lifetime, and the man that you are going to be voting, the man that you're going to be voting for is Donald Trump.
Well, listen, first of all, the question was, why are a lot of these black communities not doing better when Democrats get in charge?
What are you talking about?
Why
are the black communities not doing great when Democrats are in charge? What a generic statement that has no basis in reality. I just gave you the economy, all Americans, Democrats, Republicans, when they are presidents of the United States. And now you're going to talk about black communities. Al, you're not making any sense, my friend. But listen, I understand you're a Donald Trump supporter, and all of a sudden we're led to believe that Republicans and Donald Trump cares about black people. Might be the only thing that Kanye West has ever said in his life that I agree with. George W. Bush doesn't care about black people. Apparently, he doesn't care about democracy either because he's not supporting Kamala Harris. All right, folks. If you missed any of my interviews today, we had Don Lemon on the show, 30 minutes. Really, really enjoyed talking with him. I'm going to post that on YouTube a little bit later today as well. We also had Sabo Chandra. He is the attorney that is suing Donald Trump and J.D. Vance for what's going on in Springfield. The YouTube page is at PTL Radio Show. We are also a individual entity radio show, and what that means is we rely on people like you. So what can you do to help us? Help me, help the show? Check out the website, pushingthelimits.live. Again, that website is pushingthelimits.live. We sell merchandise on there, hats, T-shirts. Don't be a right-wing buffoon shirts with yours truly's picture on it. If you don't want to buy merchandise, that's fine. You could also donate. We have a donate button on the front page at pushingthelimits.live. Doesn't matter whether it's $5, $10, $20, you name it. Pushingthelimits.live. Thank you all for joining us. Playboy supermodel and social media influencer, used to be a Trump supporter, now is not. Anna Braga will be joining us in studio tomorrow. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great day.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas